Hola mi gente, welcome back to Banking on Cultura. I am your host, Victoria Jenn Rodriguez, and I'm so excited for you to be here because the next few episodes are going to take you on a behind-the-scenes journey of what went down at the Secure the Big Bag and Love Unapologetically Summit. I hosted this event in November 2023 along with my partner, Cara Alwill, and we just got so much great feedback and literally lives were transformed that I wanted to bring this to the Banking on Cultura community, especially as we are approaching a new year and thinking about who we want to be, right? And why do we want to be this person? And what is it going to take in order for us to get there? So I welcome you to join me on this journey of how you are going to increase your streams of income entering into 2024. But most importantly, how are you going to love yourself unapologetically and those around you that you care about? So grab your notebook, grab your pen, because mega gems were dropped. And I hope you use this information and really think critically about, how am I going to set myself up for success as we enter this new year? And I brought in the best of the best experts to break this down. So there's going to be tangible strategies that you can actually implement immediately. And make sure when you tune in that you subscribe and leave us a review. I want to know what you think, y'all. I want to make sure that we are constantly providing you value. All right, y'all. So enjoy. All right, y'all. So this next panel is a part 2 to an event that I hosted last year, which Cara was a part of, called Gender Wars. And I was inspired to host that because, y'all, it's hard out here being single. It's hard out here being a woman on the grind and trying to find a fella that isn't intimidated by me and where we're able to connect. And I think a lot of that has to do with the shift that we're all experiencing in terms of how women are moving and grooving, how we collecting these coins, securing the big bag, and just this new wave of self-realization and confidence that just didn't exist before, because quite frankly, there weren't opportunities before for us to do so. And at the same time, we have fellas who are also going through their own transformation. They're trying to adjust to this new wave and this new era, because for many of us, we were raised a particular way, right? Woman does this, man does that, man doesn't discuss feelings, woman does all the feeling stuff, right? So all of us are preconditioned to operate a specific way, and now we have this new wave and this new era of empowerment, this new era of rediscovery, and so we're both genders are trying to figure it out. But there is a tension that exists between both genders, right? We see it at the office, we see it in business, and we also see it in love. And so last year's conversation went so amazingly well. We got so much great feedback that we were like, we gotta run it back. we gotta run it back and do a part 2. So this conversation is going to be the rise of alpha women through the eyes of modern men, right? So we have a full panel of modern men here in the building, and they're going to keep it real, keep it authentic, keep it super raw. This is a safe space, right? We're gonna get into the nitty-gritty. It's probably going to get spicy, all right? Which we love, because that type of transparency is where the transformation happens, right? All right, so let's get this party started, yes?
All right.
All right, go ahead, Cara.
Start with the question of the day. It's come up a couple of times. We're going right out to the group, so whoever wants to go first and answer this one. Are men really intimidated by successful women?
I think it's a turn on.
Ooh, okay. Explain.
Straight up.
Dren.
Because it is. Like, usually men run things. So, like, whenever you see a female that's a boss, like, to me, that's mad attractive. Like, I'm like, all right, I call it girl gang. I'm like, yo, she's running shit. I could curse here, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Safe space.
So, yeah, to me, that's attractive because I like to be with a woman that I know that's a boss, that's in control.
Oh, yeah. Should we do quick intros first before we throw you guys
Let's finish
into
this
the fire?
thought, and then we'll have them introduce themselves. We're just so excited to get into it.
We're just really like chomping at the bit.
We're waiting to hear from the others on the panel.
Oh, yeah, I guess for me, I love confidence. So, female bosses for me is not just a thing, it's a way of life. So I think I'm super confident, probably overconfident enough to compensate for the women that are in my life, but I love that pushback and I love that kind of stepping into your womanhood and being about what you say you're about.
You gonna keep it real?
When I speak, it'll be reiterating what the guy said. I think every time I hear that, My first thought is, where are you finding the men that are intimidated by you?
The internet.
Yeah, exactly. Because honestly, and we talked about this when we had our prior to being on stage before. Honestly, to Dren's point, it's like every time I see my lady in a authoritative position, I think of different positions I could put her in because it is.
Oh, really? It's like a.
Oh, you got it.
I like that.
So for me, it's not intimidating at all. And I remember one of the conversations I had with my lady the first time I met her. I told her, hey, and this is something I thought about while the prior panel was happening. You kind of mentioned being authentic. And I said, there's no guarantee that we'll be together forever. But the last thing I want to happen is if we were to ever separate, that you feel that you stop doing or stop pursuing whatever your goals are because of me. So my job is to create a space for you to feel like you can spread your wings as much as possible. And I think a lot of the times, maybe in situations, if you're not that honest, women sometimes feel like they have to take a back seat. Well, for me, it's like, no, let me create a space because I don't want you to blame me for you not being your best self. And then when I see you, when you tell me these are the things you want to accomplish and I help you get to that point, it turns me on because like, man, right? So, and I think if men do that, which from what it sounds from the panel, we do that. So it goes back to my original question. Where are you finding the men that are intimidated by you?
Simmer down. I think this is a great opportunity for intros.
Yes, let's do it.
Troy, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I guess I'm the streets here. So I'm the single guy, so Troy Bigby. I run Devil's Reef Cinnamon Spiced Rum, so I'm the global president for K Street Spirits.
Dren Starr, represent Douce Cognac, is a luxury brand under the Rock Nation Bacardi umbrella, and I'm the brand ambassador.
Swalé, innovator, creative. I run an identity platform, and then I own a consulting service around ideation and creativity.
All of them are being extremely humble right
I
now.
know. I'm like, guys, you're amazing. Shout it from the rooftops. Yeah. Okay, Dren, this question's for you. So you and your partner work together. We discussed this on our panel prep call, right? You work for the same company. How do you help your partner transition from boss mode into relationship mode, right? Because you guys travel together, you do events together, you're always with each other. I know that you're attracted to the fact that she's in control, but like I'm sure that you want her to be more in her feminine, if you will, at home, right? So what does that transition look like for you guys?
I mean, it's cool in the beginning. There was little hiccups like every relationship because we actually both came from, obviously, I was married, divorced, I went through all of that drama. In the beginning, she'll be on her conference call sometimes, and I'll be in the crib chilling. And there's a lot that goes on with what we do, and then there'll be times where, some conferences, some of them are good, some of them are bad, and then the energy just keeps on going. And I'm like, yo, slow down, relax, chill. Like we're not that hat is not on in the crib right now. You know what I'm saying? So like, it was an easy transition. It was just like one conversation. Then after that, everything was like pretty cool. We didn't have to like bump heads. Like it was just like like you guys said before in other panels. You just have to have a conversation to be transparent. Mm-hmm. And
she was receptive to it.
Very, yeah.
So since you guys have figured it out, what are tips that you have to separate the two? Like when you're at home, you check work at the door. What are some tips you can give other people? Because a lot of us are all killing it professionally, and sometimes that comes home with us, and it's hard to like turn off.
I think just being honest, being able to communicate with each other. I think that's what it really is. And being that we do work together a lot, I know when there's tension going on. I can't act like I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like we deal with things nationally. She's globally, so like there's work coming from all different types of angles, and so me understanding her role and her position, I could be like, "Ah, babe, you good?" Like I'll let her calm down, half an hour. Everything's good, and she'll be like, this is it. But again, it's not between us. It's the work, and I'm privy to a lot of information that a lot of people are not. So I'm more understanding than the average cat will be. Like, let's say if she was with another dude that was in the same industry, there's no way in the world it will work, because he's not going to be privy to what she really does. I am, and it's it's on both sides of the token. You know what I'm saying?
So you and your boo thing actually work together?
Yes. So I work with the brand on Rock Nation. She works for the marketing team. So we're both of her clients. So she has Bacardi as a client, and she has Rock Nation as a client. So she does both sides. We flying around the world literally like every other week. We're on a flight. We're going somewhere, whether it's business vacation. But we're both Latino. We're not dumb. We're both born and raised in the hood. So we know what goes on when you live this type of lifestyle. We don't live a normal lifestyle. We just don't. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? We're around all these celebrities all day. We're around all these A-listers, and it's like you have to have a lot of trust in your partner to be in this industry. And if we didn't do things together and travel, it just wouldn't work, and I'm just being real.
So what do you guys think about the term alpha female? And I want to start with Swalé on this.
What does alpha female mean?
I've never been asked that question.
From my understanding, I could be wrong, it's a woman who takes control, who is super independent, who goes after what she wants, right? Who doesn't take that traditional submissive role in life in general.
Just think about this for a second. What generally happens when you have two alphas in a tribe?
They kill each other. Yeah.
So I think that's the challenge. Inherently, we are setting ourselves up for failure because the concept of alpha means in a group, there's somebody that takes the lead. You both can't be alphas. So if you're saying when I leave the house, I'm alpha, you're not truly alpha because you're yearning for an alpha male. So this idea that now you become second to that alpha male, then you were never alpha. It's almost like you put on this thing to walk out and to face the world. And that's my issue with it because in my relationships, when I think about it, even beyond the one that I'm in now for a long period of time, if I just think back of all my relationships, there's some competitive things that happen there, and that started to trigger the demise of the relationship, where it's like, I don't appreciate you for your role because I feel like you're in competition with me. And I remember always finding myself saying this thing, like, we're on the same team, I'm trying to help you. And it can be a challenge for a lot of people because it's easy to say, I'm with somebody who's actively doing things, but when you're not doing the same thing, it can kind of beat on you psychologically, right? And then you start to try to compete. And I think that is where a lot of relationships start to kind of hit their breaking point. So now when you inherently go into this idea of a relationship as a alpha female, when an alpha female meets her preferred alpha male, then you have two alphas in a single domain. And then that is where inherently in any, outside of just human relationship, any relationship in general, two alphas, one has to show dominance. And that in itself, to me, causes a problem. And that's my reason why I don't necessarily like the term alpha female. I think for women in general, don't try to assume what is historically a man's responsibility. And because you've had to do these things, you want to take on this manly title. Like, be woman and just enjoy and embrace that. And I don't feel like you have to now get these titles that men assign to themselves for you to kind of validate what you've done in your accomplishments. I think you could be a beautiful woman who's a hard worker, who is whatever titles you give. I don't want to say boss ass or whatever it is, but you can be all that without being alpha. Yeah, you can be that without being an alpha female, right? And that's been my challenge. It's like, I don't want to compete with you.
Right. How do you want your woman to turn that on and off? Because we have to be strong. We have to be boss bitches, right? Like, we've got to make money. And we love it. We're passionate. So how do women shift over then into this more feminine energy that you guys are talking about when it comes to love?
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis? Check out www.victoriajen.com/training to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go.
You don't have to answer. Let's ask Troy.
So, yeah, I guess one point that I'll make that, might have slipped the room is Swalé said that men assign themselves, right? The idea that a male decided that this is what determines an alpha person is completely subjective, right? There's no, it's a term, right? So, people that know me know I'm really big on words, I'm really big on writing, et cetera. It's something that, just don't assume there's a particular language or way that this has to mean this is this thing, right? Whatever you want to call it, boss ass B, whatever that is, right? If that's who you're going to be, then, work towards being whatever the almost perfect or perfect version of that is for you, but it doesn't mean that you're directly in competition with someone who is male or female, right? Every time I hear competition, Dren and I are in the same space in alcohol, and I'm like, you know how much money alcohol makes globally, right? Like, we don't have to compete. It's very much a kind of a black and brown thing to create competition in a space that you share, because in other relationships, you don't hear Jeff Bezos' wife or Jeff Bezos talking about, I'm the alpha male of the house. It's just not a topic of conversation. I think it's something that's very small in the space that we grow in, because we're all, no matter where you came from, we're all trying to fight for the top role in the home, right, or outside. And I think that's something that's just inherent to our culture, and it's something that kind of always predicts the demise of any relationship or anything that you're trying to do, is creating this kind of subchasm of competition that doesn't really exist.
Swalé, I want to come back to you because you actually are business partners with your boo thing, with your wife, and you guys are also parents.
Correct.
Right? So what does this look like on a day-to-day basis, and how do you give each other space to be each of those things without killing each other?
Whoa, that's a loaded question. How do we give each other space? We ask for it. I think there's this assumption that I know what she feels when she feels it, and she knows what I feel when I feel it. And we romanticize this idea as like your man is supposed to know your inner thoughts and know exactly how you feel when you feel it, because that's what social media and the movies tell us, right? Oh, he finishes my sentence. Oh, he completes me, and I don't even have to ask for it, because earlier they said, when I go out, he knows what to order for me, and it's like, why are we giving men this mythical like capability? Like, we're not supermen. We're human beings just like yourself. But I guess you do this thing where it's like, instead of just asking for it. I'm a professor at Parsons, and I just left class before I came here. And as the class ended, I asked the students, did you get what you want from the class? And they were like, no, it was missing this one thing. And then my question is, why didn't you ask for it? Well, I thought it was going to come, but what made you think that it was going to come? Because if you have the opportunity to ask, why not ask for it? So this morning, the conversation went like this. Hey, I want to go to a Pilates class tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Is that cool? Yes, that's cool. And I responded, I want to go to a boxing class at 1 p.m. That's cool. Usually my daughter goes to tennis at 9 a.m., but she says, I need some time for myself. And it's on and she's like, they have an opportunity to, you can, at the class she goes, there's a space for kids. Do you want me to take the kid? I'm like, no, I'll keep her, and then you get exactly what you want out of it. But all it took was for her to ask, because in times past, it was like, no, he should know that I need this time because I'm a mother and I run my law firm and I'm a partner and I'm there. And it's like, no, because guess what? While you're doing that, I'm still a father. I'm still a partner. It's still my responsibility to take care of this household. So I'm not, as much as we are in tune, we still have separate lives in this domain, and it's okay to ask. It's okay for your partner to not know your every move or what makes you happy or all these things. It's okay to just say, hey, I'd appreciate it if you did this. And you know what, the partner, if they appreciate you as much as you would appreciate that, they would say, yes, I will do it for you. And that's how we make it work. We just ask and then hope that it's reciprocated on both sides.
I'm feeling very called out. In a good way? It's like therapy?
Of course, that's why it's happening here.
Amen.
To feed on to what you're saying, that's why my last relationship didn't work, because we would clash. And like Swalé was saying, it was like we would clash and it just wasn't, listen, we both can't, somebody got to act right. You know what I'm saying? And no, and I'm saying that because, whether maybe I was wrong. I'm just saying my story is crazy. Like I was in prison, I was on parole. So like I had my back against the wall 24/7. So I was walking on eggshells. So I had all of those elements, and then I had to make sure that this woman was happy. But I'm finding out that she's trying to compete with me. And it's like, we can't compete. Like I know what I'm doing. You trying to figure out what you're doing, but you trying to stop me from doing what I'm doing because you want to bug out? And then I'm on parole, so I can't really tell her about herself because she called the cops on me. I didn't even do nothing. You see what I'm saying? So like I gotta tread lightly, and then I'm the one going to therapy. I'm the one putting my best foot forward. And the therapist is telling her like, yo, she don't want to hear it. So I'm like, all right, I know it's not me, but we just had to get another person here to make sure that, you know what I'm saying? That I'm on the right type of time. You know what I'm saying? She's like, oh, we got to change therapists. I said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So the reason why me and my new partner work out, because we both been through these challenges and these obstacles. We both went to get the help that we needed to evolve in life. And that's why it's working right now.
All right, we've got one for Troy. So you are the single guy of the group. You're also a super successful entrepreneur. Do you feel that you're ready and available for a relationship?
No.
Wow,
I
that's
love the
different.
honesty.
Because the
I
last
love
one,
honesty.
he said yes.
Yes.
The last one, he said yes.
So what I'll say is this: I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur and a creative, and I just kind of got the space to be able to do it on my own terms. And so when you're in that space of, and Dren and Swalé, kind of know this as well, when you're in that space of like hyper focus, it's very difficult to parse your time out for personal endeavors, right? Just full transparency, right? It's selfish, right? So, I mean, I've tried to do the dating thing in the past and been like, let me just take stock of like where I'm putting my time. And if I would much rather prefer to be on that business call or be taking a flight to go handle business than trying to figure out what you want to eat for dinner. You know what I mean? Like, I'll say that to say, I think that I'm able to do a very good job of giving a person 100% of what they want, but that doesn't mean you're getting 100% of me, right? So I think that's the difference. I mean, listen, I've been out on dates and I do that thing. Maybe I'm in the streets. I don't know.
You in the streets.
I will affectionately plead the fifth. But I'm a detail-oriented person. So I'm the kind of guy that's like, oh, you like this food, or you're allergic to this, or you're this. And so for you, I think what happens, at least for me, is if I do go out, you're like, oh, he gets me, right? But I'm up all night working, so it's just very easy for me to go parcel up 2 hours for dinner and go home and get back to it. And I think when it starts to step in the direction of like, oh my God, I really like him, it's really going this way, and I'm just kind of like, you don't know what my lifestyle is really like when we're not at dinner, and then you get a glimpse of that lifestyle, and you're like, oh wow, this is not what I signed up for. So I like to just be very upfront and say, hey, look, you can get these things, and it's probably 100% for you, but it just isn't going to be what fulfills me.
Well, you know what I love about that? First of all, thank you for your honesty. And I give men so much credit when they're honest, and women. Like, there was a time I wasn't ready for it, and I would tell people that. Something else that's really interesting that I've researched, and this is just science, this is not an opinion, men's brains are wired differently than women's brains, right? So men are wired to think very linearly. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. You're like, this is my focus. Women's brains are wired like spider webs, basically. So, like we can do many things at one time. And I think that's why a lot of women who are in positions where they're running businesses also really crave a relationship. Like, it's rare that you hear women say, no, I'm just focused on my business right now. And if we do, not speaking for everybody, it's because we have a guard up or a wall up. And it's like, I don't want to get hurt anymore. Yeah. Yeah, so
I think, Swalé and I talk like every week. And so our thing is we are hyper analytical. So, you can ask me a question. I do not have an emotional response to it, right? So I think, I've learned to take my business hat off when I'm in the presence of friends or on dates, because it will go from, hey, what do you want to have for dinner to, so what do you think about this business concept? And I guess the caveat there too is I'm in business with my older brother. So I have to turn off being the younger brother every day when we talk business because he wants to lean on the "you're my younger brother" thing. And I'm like, no, this is the way that we have to run this business. And so it's a switch for me, which I think doesn't, Swalé and I, he does this as well. A lot of our friends as a group, we do that also. But that's just how we're wired, right? And everybody, especially women, as to your point, aren't really wired to see that switch go off. And I've had to learn to be like, hey, so listen, we're talking about business, right? So if we're talking about business, just understand that I am not going to be emotional or have an emotional reaction to whatever it is you're asking me or trying to have a conversation about. But don't be thrown off because I'm just putting on my business hat to give you the data that you need in this particular time, and I'll take it back off when that question's done, right?
I'm so ready for this next question. Get ready.
Buckle up.
All right. And this is for the group. All right. So we hear a lot of men talking about wanting a submissive woman. Is that true? If so, what does that mean and what does it look like?
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis? Check out www.victoriajen.com/training to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go.
Because we don't know what the hell it means. We just get triggered like crazy when we hear that term. Trigger. I actually want to hear from a man. What does that mean? What does it mean?
What does it mean to you?
Submissive woman. Do I want a submissive woman?
Listen, that's not, to me, that's not even an issue. I never even thought about that. So I don't know where you got that question from.
Any dating book.
Dren, stop it right now.
No.
Stop it right now.
Book, any YouTube
Stop with the
video.
nonsense.
Listen. Troy and I, we talked.
They don't want to get in trouble.
I know, that's what it is.
I've never been in a conversation with any of my homeboys or dudes, and they say, "Yo, I found this girl," and then one of them respond but is she submissive though? It never happens.
If you read any dating book or listen to any male dating coach, they all talk about this. They're like, "What happened to all the submissive women?" And we're like, "What the fuck? I gotta pay my rent." I can't be rubbing your feet every day. I mean, when I want to.
So let me say this. I don't like to be disrespected. I don't take disrespect in any form, inside or outside of my house. If I'm asking you to be respectful, and I think we have to talk about the word submissive. Before we put it in this relationship contest, it was pets that we talk about, like dogs being submissive. And I could imagine how there's a negative connotation associated with it. And maybe it's the word that I'm against the word. Mm-hmm. The challenge I have, women tend to want leadership, men who take on the lead, but they fight against the idea of it. Because if somebody is leading, going back to the whole alpha thing, if somebody is leading, that means somebody has to follow, right? And I think for a lot of, I was just about to speak for women.
Don't get jumped, bro.
Yeah, that's what I caught myself.
Everyone's getting arrested after this panel.
It's
safe space.
It's easy to say I want my man to be able to do these things for me and decide when we go out to eat to pick my meals for me, and until it becomes he's a narcissist. oh, like he doesn't even give me an opportunity to think, and I don't even feel like I have a voice in this relationship. So it's like there's this thin line between this ideal man, and when he shows up, you assign these other things to him. He's gaslighting, and it's like, where is these, like, and it becomes a thing. So now men are scared to be men. Women were saying, I want a man to take control, but if he does, then it's like, did he take too much control? And is he now teetering on me too? Like, what is
I actually want to touch on that, honestly. I made like a mental note, if you don't mind, because this is an issue my male friends have told me about. They're like, because of Me Too, it's shifted things, right? And it's an important movement, but I think a lot of men who feel nervous to hit on women, right? Like, let's say, especially in a business situation, right? You're working with somebody. So like, Dren, I don't know how you met your partner, but I think a lot of guys are, and I've heard this from their mouths, they're like, well, I don't want to like hit on her or ask her on a date because she might go to HR, right? Or she might get offended by this, or she might like post about me and like ruin my brand or my reputation. So I actually understand that could be a concern. I just want to hear from you guys what you think.
Well, me, I met my partner before we were, working together on the same team. To also touch on something like the whole social media thing, like I don't post her like that. You know what I'm saying? Because people like to ruin good things. And then, a lot of the times that we work together, if you don't know we're together, you don't know. Yeah. Like we don't do PDA, we don't, all the higher ups know. But the way we carry ourselves, they're like, that's dope. Like, because that's frowned upon too. You know what I'm saying? People work, in the same workplace. So like, we don't do any of that. But it's really dope because the longevity in it and just the way the experience is different. Like, I never experienced something so dope and natural and platonic like that. You know what I'm saying? My last relationship, she wanted to be all over my page, all over my social media. And it's funny because when me and her got together now, she, by mistake, double-clicked on the one picture I forgot to delete for my social media, and that's what sparked the whole conversation. And I'm like, oh, thank you, I forgot to delete this one. And then before you know it, we wound up together.
Oh, that's how it happened. Interesting. That'll be something we would do, right? Like a picture of you and your ex. I mean, like, yeah, I peeped that.
Yeah,
167
she was on the
weeks
phone with
ago.
one of her homegirls, and double tapped it by mistake, and I'm like, oh, good looking.
That wasn't by mistake.
Yeah.
Not a mistake.
Petty.
I want to hear Troy's response to this, if you have one. Do you feel that way? Is that like a real concern with single guys?
Not the single guys that I know, but I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I don't think any highly functioning, emotionally intelligent man, turns a blind eye to, the possibilities of how things can go wrong. I try not to, I guess, over-rotate on any one given thing, probably except work, but admittedly, it's a slippery slope. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's been a long time since I was in a relationship with somebody I worked with. So today, I wouldn't know how to navigate that space, right? I think, it's always, I would love to say it's always, a sort of, dual feeling or connection or something that you see and then you want to figure out how to act on it, but there's no, recipe or guidelines to how you navigate those kind of situations.
I want to follow up to what you said earlier, Troy, about you not being ready for a relationship. Is that because of the responsibility of a relationship? Because I know you know a lot of fellas in your arena, like you talked to Swalé, who's married, happily married, has the kids. Like, do you think about like, yo, maybe I need, how old are you, Troy?
I'm old.
You're seasoned. You're seasoned. So do you ever think like, yo, let me make a move on this because I'm not getting any younger?
Nope.
Why not?
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ooh, this is really good. You should know about this. So I don't know about you, but I've been known to procrastinate, especially when things scare the hell out of me. The fear alone would have me stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and all types of self-doubt. And don't even get me started on the imposter syndrome. Okay. After getting laid off, not once, but 3 times, honey, I realized that the security blanket that I made up in my head was just an excuse because I didn't really want to bet on myself. The corporate benefits that had me in that headlock, girl, they went out the window once my job decided that they no longer needed me.
Turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary completely.
The truth is, the only security blanket guarantee is the one that you create for yourself. In other words, until you start a business, you will always be at the mercy of a company's headcount, and you will never have complete control over your time, which means you'll be renting out your thought leadership and helping build someone else's dream instead of your own. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Don't you think it's time you stop playing small and tap all the way into your power, sis? Check out www.victoriajen.com/training to learn my 3-step process, the exact 3 steps that I took to make the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And this is helpful even if you don't know what type of business to start and have only one source of income. And this is absolutely free. It is my gift to you. I want you to win. It's winning season. In fact, what's that? It smells like winning season. Okay, so tap in and I'll see you inside the training. Let's go.
Why cuz, right? Like, what is if we're putting this into male and female terms, I don't have a biological clock per se, right? So just that portion alone says that I don't have to do any of that stuff. And I live in Edgewater, New Jersey, so there's some older mofos than me that's out here crushing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's anybody who knows, listen, we're in metropolitan New York, New Jersey. It's not difficult to find people to date or to hang out with or to do whatever you want with. But I just, when I do make that decision that I want to be in a relationship, I want to be able to give that person 100% of what it is that they require, and I want to be able to get that in return. And so today, I'm not going to give it, right? Because I don't necessarily have it to give, if I'm being honest, right? I'm completely focused on this next step or this next phase in my career, and selfishly, for the first time, I can say that that's what I want to do, as opposed to putting that to the back burner. I'm not a lover who is partially there, so I can't be partially I can't be partially there for my partner in that way.
So, okay, can I ask one more follow-up to this? So, have you guys heard of like the taxi cab theory? It was like on Sex and the City. If a man is ready, his light is on. Like a cab, you can hail a cab. If the light's off, it's not going to stop for you. If the light is on, it'll stop. So the theory is that when a man is ready, he'll basically just be with the next woman. And this goes both ways, right? But he'll be with the woman that's in front of him. Or do you think that the right woman can change a guy's mind? Like, Swalé, I'd love to hear from you. Like, did you feel like your partner made you think differently about relationships, or were you out there like actively looking for somebody?
I've never actively looked, just like I've never actively found a book to read. Every book I've ever read, it came into my life organically.
Swalé also was a bachelor pre-marriage, and every woman fell in love with him.
Yeah, listen.
Hey.
That's some insider information.
I've never had a problem with women loving me. My biggest problem was finding a woman I was patient enough to love back. And that's always been my challenge.
That you were patient enough to love back. What does that mean, patient enough to love back? Like, tell us what that means.
To deal with the shenanigans and the bullshit.
But he was patient enough to love her, he's saying.
Sorry.
Unless to deal with her bullshit. I don't know. We all have our bullshit, right?
Well, one, I want to clear this up. There's this notion that, especially when you say happily married, right? My lady tried to leave me 3 times this summer.
Wow.
Right? But she can't. Come on. Let's be honest. But anyways, the reason I'm saying that is because relationships take work. Like there's this idea that this fairy tale happens and you're gonna fall in love and then everything's gonna be like just bliss. And it's never that. And out of the 3 times, it might not have been 3, but that she wanted to or decided that she was gonna leave me, I wasn't even conscious of it. Troy made a point about like we're focused and goal oriented. I'm trying to every morning I wake up, I have a responsibility to take care of my family. That is my number 1 priority, right? And I will admit that sometimes, because of those blinders, I might not necessarily. It takes me a while to kind of step back and kind of see everything because I need to accomplish like certain things. I know the responsibility that's on me. With that said, it's like relationships in general just take work, and I've worked really hard for this particular relationship, just because there's children involved. But beyond that, I love my lady, and I know that I'm not perfect. As much as I may joke about it, but I know that we are all flawed individuals, and I think sometimes we chase this idea of perfection, and I hear stories outside looking in. Everybody's like, oh, like I want that, right? Like we live in this idea like, oh, it's perfect until it's not. But the things that are imperfect have always been there. But if we walk in the situation and be like, I see that flaw and I'm okay with it, right? And if we get to that early, when it comes back, I knew it was there and I moved. Like one of the conversations I have with my lady a lot is this idea of compromise. What is your compromise, right? And we all have this idea, no, I shouldn't have to compromise. Unfortunately, everything in life is a compromise. Whether you admit it or not, it is a compromise. And then you have to be honest with yourself, like, is this the thing I'm willing to compromise on? And if it's not, then you can do that early. But when you're here and you believe in this idea, it's like, no, he completes me and all these things. And then one morning, he does something, and it's not brand new. He's been doing it from the jump, but you were so caught up in this moment that you didn't see it when it was glaring. Then you blame him for being himself because you didn't want to see it at that moment. And I think that's it. And to be honest, this is the second time I'll say it. We're not superheroes. We are not any different from anybody that's out there. I think the one thing we may have more than the next is just being self-aware. I understand my flaws. I'm okay standing up here and tell you I'm wrong with this, and this, and this. And if I tell you and you don't want to see it, you cannot blame me for it when you finally decide to see it, right? And that's a conversation you have to have with yourself. What's the mirror work?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move into the final question because we got a minute left. I would love to hear from you guys how women should talk to fellas about therapy. Let's say they're in a relationship, they're dating someone, or maybe it's a family member, somebody they care about, and they believe that therapy is a valid solution to help them get through whatever they're going through. How can they speak to folks about that, especially when, at least for me, especially with men of color, there's an automatic armor that is put up whenever therapy is brought up. So what are some tangible tips you can give to have those type of difficult conversations with people that you're pursuing or in a relationship with?
So I've been doing therapy for like 3 years. Almost every man or friend that I have has done therapy. You heard Dren say it, Swalé. All of our guy friends who I think, again, are highly aware feel that there's something that's there. It is not an easy discussion. I mean, I've tried to ask even my mother to get therapy, but it's a double-edged sword, right? I think, to Swalé's point, you really have to be self-aware and want to know, what you need to work on or what your flaws are or what you're trying to accomplish to accept therapy. But most people live in a fantasy world where they think, I'm okay with the flaws, right? I think, one of my tenets is never really being comfortable. So I need to exist in a space of constant uncomfortability, right? Like I have to have a challenge. I have to be working on something. I never want to become stagnant, right? But most people are comfortable being stagnant. And so I think when it comes to therapy, you're never going to get someone to go and do what they don't want to do, right? I used to use the analogy a long time ago. I'm like, you meet a guy, they watch football on Sundays, you get with them, they're still watching football on Sundays, you get married and you want to go to the supermarket when they're watching football, right? You got into this knowing that he watched football on Sunday. Why do you think that he wants to go to the supermarket all of a sudden when football's on Sunday, right? But and I say that because I want to put it in simple terms. I think a lot of times we as people talk over, right? But that's something that everybody can kind of resonate with if you've been with somebody, right? They have a habit, you don't necessarily like the habit. You want them to not do the habit, and so if you can't get them to not do it on their own, you impose something to get them out of that habit by your necessity, per se, or need. And with therapy, it's one of those things that you have to go into it eyes wide open, right? Most therapists want you to talk. They listen. Some, I'll say, people like Phil Stutz, for instance, their methodology is here's the issue that you have. There's a resolution or a way to go about looking at that and doing some self-work and getting that to kind of fix itself or you fix it. But it really has to be of someone's own volition. They have to want to make the effort either for themselves or for the people that they love, right, to make the change. And other than that, I don't think it's really possible to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do.
When you're ready to do the work yourself, I think it's so much easier because it just shows a level of evolution. And if you got to speak to a man to go to therapy, listen, he didn't evolve yet. Yeah. He's still for the streets. He's on the block. None of my man Troy, because he's getting therapy. But if you got to speak to homie to get therapy, like that in itself is very, very telling. You know what I'm saying? He should be wanting to get the help himself.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and I think a great way to lock down this conversation, because we can keep going and going and going. I just want to thank each of you for your vulnerability.
Yes,
And
thank you guys.
You got something to say,
just on
Swalé?
therapy. Two things. One,
Okay.
Not all therapists are good therapists, and it could be worse than be beneficial. So we got to be mindful of that. And then I saw a documentary over the summer, and it was a lawyer who's a divorce lawyer talking about marriages. If you haven't seen it, it's an amazing documentary. But he said something. He says, people tend to lie to their therapist, but they won't lie to their lawyer. So
that's good.
when you tell people go to therapy, they give the therapist their version of the story. And it's not authentic, right? So as much as it's cleansing and it should be, when it's based on a lie, you can't get truth out of it, right? So again, it's easy to say go to therapy, but be honest in therapy as well. And I think you cannot tell somebody to go to therapy without telling them be authentic in that space as well.
That's a great point.
I love that. All right, well, thank you so much, fellas.
Thank you guys.
Mi gente, did you hear? Banking on Cultura is also on YouTube. So if you're into the visual thing, if you want to see our reactions and get into these fits, honey, make sure to look up Banking on Cultura over on YouTube. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Don't forget to make sure and leave a review. This is super important because this is how we're measured on the different audio platforms. So if you want to hear more of Banking on Cultura, if you were vibing, if you had takeaways, if you just enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a review. I appreciate you so much. Until next time.